Good afternoon, friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. As we have informed you, we have here with us Foreign Secretary, and along with her, on her right, is a Joint Secretary North, who will be assisting the Foreign Secretary in the course of her briefing to you. What we will have is that I'll request the Foreign Secretary to make her opening remarks, and the focus of this briefing is related to Prime Minister's forthcoming visit to Bhutan. Following her opening remarks, we will then have all questions related to the visit. And if we have time, she is willing to answer a couple of other questions which go beyond that. As you are all aware, everybody gets one chance. Choose your chance very carefully. With those brief introductory ground rules, I will now ask Foreign Secretary to make her opening remarks on Prime Minister's forthcoming visit to Bhutan. Foreign Secretary.
Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, will be paying a goodwill visit to Bhutan on 15th and 16th June 2014 at the invitation of His Majesty Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk, the King of Bhutan, His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo, and Prime Minister Shering Tobgay. The Prime Minister will be accompanied by External Affairs Minister Srimati Sushma Swaraj, by National Security Advisor Shri Ajit Doval, and by me. Bhutan is the first foreign country that Prime Minister is visiting after being sworn in. Our relations with Bhutan are unique and especially warm. Our historical and cultural linkages make us natural friends and partners. In Bhutan, the Prime Minister will meet His Majesty the King of Bhutan, His Majesty the 4th Druk Gyalpo, and the Prime Minister of Bhutan. PM will also address a joint session of the National Assembly and National Council of Bhutan and meet the leader of the opposition. Discussions during the visit will include the whole gamut of bilateral relations. We are privileged to be partnering Bhutan in its economic development. Our assistance package comprises rupees 4,500 crores for Bhutan's 11th five-year plan from 2013 to 2018 and covers areas from infrastructure, information and communication technology to health, agriculture, human resource development, and tourism. We also assist Bhutan in implementing smaller projects such as schools, libraries, hostel facilities for students, veterinary hospitals, irrigation channels, drinking water schemes, and communication and community centers. Our hydropower cooperation with Bhutan is a classic example of win-win cooperation. The hydropower projects generate export revenues for Bhutan, cement our economic partnership, and provide clean and low-cost electricity to India. 3 hydroelectric projects totaling 1,416 megawatts are already operational. 3 more projects are under construction. They are scheduled to be commissioned in 2017-18. In April 2014, we signed a framework agreement on 4 more joint venture model hydroelectric projects totaling 2,120 megawatts. Of these, the pre-construction activities of the 600 megawatt Kolongchu hydroelectric project as a joint venture model between Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam and Druk Green Power Corporation will commence shortly. Our bilateral trade amounted to rupees 6,830 crores in 2012. India has also invested in 16 projects in Bhutan in areas such as hydropower, cement, and information technology. A free trade regime is in place between India and Bhutan. Further measures to boost trade will also be discussed. Education, media, and tourism hold good potential for enhanced cooperation in the future. We will explore ways and means of strengthening our ties in these important areas. Prime Minister's visit reflects the high priority that Government of India attaches to its relations with Bhutan and to good neighborly relations in our South Asian neighborhood. Thank you.
The floor is now open for any questions that you may have. Please raise your hand so that I can indicate to the person concerned to bring the mic. We will begin with questions related to the opening remarks. Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah, it's about this power projects. These power projects in Bhutan, they are overrun the times for several times. There have been some issues between the Ministry of External Affairs and the Planning Commission. It has been reflected in the Parliamentary Standing Committee reports. Have those issues been now rectified or sorted out between the Planning Commission and the Ministry of External Affairs?
The hydroelectric projects between India and Bhutan are a classic case of win-win cooperation, a fact that is recognized by the governments of India as well as the royal government of Bhutan. Any issues relating to the projects have been discussed and sorted out, which is why they are on track and which is why this framework agreement on the joint venture model projects totaling 2,120 megawatts was signed in April 2014.
Suhasini?
Foreign Secretary, the former Bhutan Prime Minister had in fact met with the Chinese Premier on a visit in another continent, and at that time certainly there had just been the discussion. My question really is, as China continues to make it clear it would like to set up diplomatic ties, it would like to set up a consulate, what is India's position on the matter?
Suhasini, the fact of the matter is simply this, that Bhutan is a sovereign country, and it is up to Bhutan and its leadership to decide on this particular issue, keeping their interests in mind.
Shinjo, you'd like to ask on Bhutan? Yes.
Ma'am, in recent weeks, there have been reports from the Army and Secretary R about PLA activity in northern parts of Bhutan, northern and northern western parts of Bhutan. Now, as the government is aware of all this, is this issue going to come up when Mr. Modi meets the Bhutanese leadership? Has he been briefed on this?
Shinjoy, I can assure you that the Prime Minister has been briefed on all issues of importance. And as for what happens on the border, you are aware that what happens on the border is dealt with by the brave sentinels on the border. We have absolutely no doubt about that.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Venkat Narayan?
Media reports suggest that you need at least $15 billion to raise the hydroelectricity power of 10,000 megawatt in Bhutan. And that's one of the reasons why there's been a delay in making these things happen. Does India have any plans to go to the IMF, or World Bank, or ADB, or countries who have a lot of money to invest for help to make this happen? Thanks.
You are absolutely right. These projects do indeed have significant financial implications. However, we have implemented several of them already to date, and very much within our own resources. And now we are implementing them under joint venture model of partnership. So let's see how it goes. I think that the years ahead will show us as to how these various models are working and whether any further measures need to be taken.
Santosh?
जी मुझे तो याद नहीं है कि मैं कही थी कि उनका पहला विजिट नेपाल होगा. शायद आप कह रहे थे और मैं तो उस टाइम तो ये नहीं कही थी. तो अगर आप पूछ रहे हैं कि भूटान क्यों पहली विजिट है, तो मैं ये कह सकती हूँ कि भूटान तो हमारी वन ऑफ आवर मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट एंड स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर्स है, वेरी फ्रेंडली पार्टनर है, एंड इट्स अ वेरी गुड कंट्री to show our policy of good neighborliness in South Asia and a special token of our friendship for Bhutan.
Any other questions on this issue? If are there any questions on other issues? Yes. Let's begin here.
मैम एक सवाल, उसका अगर आप जवाब हिंदी में ही दें. आज ये पता चला है कि प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने एक रिस्पांस में पाकिस्तान पीएम को लेटर लिखा है और उसमें ये भी कहा है कि किस तरह से हम अपने संबंधों को बहुत आगे बढ़ा सकते हैं. तो क्या माना जाए कि दोनों देश लेटर डिप्लोमेसी के जरिए संबंधों को एक नई ऊंचाई तक ले जाना चाहते हैं?
देखिए, बहुत सारे तरीके हैं हमारी रिलेशनशिप को प्रोग्रेस करने के लिए, और लेटर डिप्लोमेसी तो इनमें से एक टूल है. जरूर, क्यों नहीं.
Nidhi?
Ma'am, there has been a very serious violation, ceasefire violation on the line of control today. In fact, the most serious since the new government took over. Is there any comment from the ministry here on what's going on the border?
Nidhi, I think that we are all aware that the maintenance of peace and tranquility on the line of control is one of the most important confidence-building measures between India and Pakistan. That remains the case and will always remain the case.
Rajiv?
Madam Foreign Secretary, after Pakistani Prime Minister has expressed his much happiness with his India visit, will it lead to some specific concrete deliverables in terms of peace talks resumption? And if so, can you give any immediate calendar for the coming weeks? Thank you.
We certainly hope so. When the moment is ripe.
Naz?
Ma'am, the External Affairs Minister is going to Dhaka next month. Can we hope that the new government will soon be taking a call on solving the pending land boundary agreement, and could you just ma'am, just could you give us a
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Actually, I was saying the External Affairs Minister is going to Dhaka next month. So can we hope that the new government would be taking a call on resolving the pending issues like land boundary issue with the
You know, I'd be
Bangladesh
quite happy to discuss this at the appropriate time. At this point of time, I wouldn't like to discuss something that hasn't as yet been publicly confirmed. The visit or the what's going to happen during the visit.
Ranjit?
When Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Nawaz Sharif met in Delhi, last time, they decided that the foreign secretaries of India and Pakistan will remain in touch. So have you established any contact after that?
We will, by and by.
Gaurav?
So, ma'am, we have this shawl and sari diplomacy and letter diplomacy, and we also have firing at the LC and soldiers dying. Where does this leave the Indo-Pak peace process, and what's the road ahead?
You are aware that our policy towards our neighbors has always been to work towards peaceful and cordial relations. So that is our overall objective, and that is where the sari and the shawl diplomacy and the letter diplomacy fits in. On the firing, I would just like to reiterate that peace and tranquility on the border is of the highest importance in establishing the preconditions for such a peaceful and normal relationship.
No. Anyone else who hasn't asked a question? Yes, sir.
There will be Indo-Japan-US trilateral strategic dialogue in 2 weeks later. What do you expect for this dialogue from your perspective?
The India-US-Japan trilateral is a well-established feature where certain issues of common interest to all three countries are discussed. We expect that the next meeting will also follow the same pattern.
Yes, Elizabeth, just a minute.
Ma'am, the Chinese foreign minister last week described, the issuance of staple visas to people from Arunachal Pradesh as a goodwill gesture. Now, I believe the talks were, Mr. Akbaruddin briefed us saying that the talks were cordial, useful, productive, and substantive. Was this issue discussed, and how does the Chinese foreign minister describe it as a goodwill gesture? I mean, how do we look at it? How do we understand it? As a goodwill gesture.
Elizabeth, as you are aware, the grant of visa to any individual is a sovereign right of a country. Also, it is our duty as government to impress on all concerned that there should be no discrimination against visa applicants of Indian nationality on grounds of domicile or ethnicity. After all, we are one people. This is a point that we continue to make.
Padma Rao?
Foreign Secretary, I'd like to know, one has heard about, messages of congratulations coming from the United States, from Japan, and we're talking about many of these bilateral visits and things going on. Has there been, I did ask Akbar this question last week, has there been any word from A, the European Union, and B, the German Foreign Minister, Mr. Steinmeier specifically, indicating perhaps also a forthcoming visit or a meeting on the periphery of the United Nations General Assembly?
I can assure you that there have been congratulatory messages from all over the world, including countries in the European Union. And regarding bilateral meetings at the UNGA, these will take place. After all, it's still 3 or 4 months away. And closer to the date, I'm sure we'll have more details as to what are the requests received and what are the meetings that will take place.
Okay, last 2 questions. Yes, sir. Just a minute.
मैडम, बुलेट ट्रेन वाली इशू पे जापान के साथ पिछले 15-20 दिनों में ऑफिशियल लेवल पे कोई नई टॉक्स हुई हैं क्या?
बहुत सारे ऑनगोइंग इश्यूज हैं जिनके ऊपर डिस्कशंस होती रहती हैं, ये तो ऑनगोइंग होती रहती है.
Yes, sir.
Madam, very exciting. Goa government sending 7 ministers to Brazil फुटबॉल मैच देखने के लिए, और इसमें करोड़ रुपया खर्चा हो रहा है. तो सारे देश इसमें हंस रहा है भी, मतलब इस टाइम पर मतलब फुटबॉल मैच देखने के लिए जा रहा है. व्हाट्स द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ द मिनिस्टर ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स?
आप गोवा गवर्नमेंट से पूछिए, मुझे क्यों पूछ रहे हैं?
Thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this interaction.